Okay, so hey guys, and welcome back to another predictions video, and in today's video I'm going to be predicting the Wardley versus Clarke fight. And so if you are new around here and you haven't yet subscribed, please do so. Like video if you do indeed like video, and let's get straight into it. So starting off, going into the fight, Wardley is 17-0 with 16 KOs and Clarke is 8-0 with 6 KOs. This fight's fully British and Commonwealth heavyweight title, and traditionally I don't normally talk about British and Commonwealth fights, like I don't normally do predictions on them, but with its heavyweight division, with the fact that this fight has been built up for a long time and it's one which I'm personally very excited for the outcome of, I thought I'd come on here and do it. Wardley's last fight though was a win via TKO in round 7 versus Adelaide, and Clarke's last fight was a win via stoppage in round 6 versus Allen. So, to speak about both their last performances, you'd have to argue that Wardley's was one which really elevated him and showed that he can clearly operate very well at this level and can be dominant at this level, and makes him the clear favourite, makes him the one to beat, and he has dealt with step ups very well, Wardley, and has always built himself up to the occasion. Clarke though, stoppage around 6, it was an interesting stoppage, but nonetheless he still managed to win. And in a fight like that, it's against somebody like Allen, it was a messy fight, not really too entertaining really, but in the end, like I mentioned, Clarke won. He did what he, I suppose, had to do, and it was it a bit of a step up from Mariusz Wach before? Not really, but nonetheless, he's getting wins here, and he's now got to this shot where he's at this fight here, and credit to Clarke, he's had to go through a lot of quite unfortunate abuse and hate. That's not realistically his fault because of what has happened with the whole situation before this fight and how it fell through before. And to keep him fighting and to keep him winning, something like that could have affected his mentality worse, but it seems to have, he still seemed to be able to win fights and win relatively comfortably. So, nonetheless, credit to him, and I'm sure with this fight, which he's been long waiting for, it's a step up for him, and it's a fight which he is definitely going to be able to get himself up for, I believe, and so we might see a bit of a different Fraser Clarke in this one. I'm not entirely sure. But to speak about them both as fighters, Wardley, he's aggressive, he's a combination puncher with immense power, and he's a great finisher when he senses that you're hurt, and that's absolutely proven from the 16 stoppages in 17 fights, the only non-stoppage being his professional debut all them years ago. So very powerful, aggressive puncher, commits to his shots. He has a chin that can take a shot. He can be hit, and quite often he seemingly needs to get hit to then get him up for the fight, to get him to want to keep going, which isn't necessarily the best thing, but it shows that he is fueled by that mentality of that aggressive mentality, and he is fueled by he has to kind of be wanting to and willing to hurt you to be able to do it. And it seems like it's gotten him this far so far, so you can't really discredit it too much. He stands his ground well. He will let his hands go, especially when he gets you up against the ropes in general. And yeah, like I mentioned, combination puncher, pushes the pace. He's well conditioned as well. Normally does fight at quite a high pace a lot of the time, and yeah, when he especially builds into a fight, the pace can typically be quite high. He's got good timing. He's relatively fast and explosive in the process as well, and that also, I suppose, to an extent makes him a good finisher, because on one hand you could argue it's him maybe forcing the fight a little bit and trying to rush the fight a little bit, but you could also argue that it's very difficult to be able to counteract when you're already hurt, the power and the explosiveness and the speed in which you're going to be faced by Wardley Clarke. Entourage, is that the right word? I don't know, but onslaught, that's the right word. And so yeah, that's what makes him, in my opinion, interesting as a fighter. To say the negatives, of course, he does get hit. Both fighters in this fight are very much prone to getting hit, and can be maybe not necessarily hurt, but they can definitely get hit. And how they both going to be able to take hits where they're both going to be up for the fight more than anything, and so who's going to be the one that takes the first bigger hit, and how do they react to it? He likes going to war. He's definitely nowhere near the technical level of ability of Clarke, and it's not as clean. A lot of his shots, and the accuracy isn't always great, and it can be quite wild. He can lose his composure a little bit. Maybe possibly he could get frustrated. We haven't really seen, like, him get tested in that element too much, but if he isn't getting his way, we could possibly see him get frustrated. He, like I mentioned, sometimes needs to get hit. He can be a little bit messy and close as well, and then the accuracy's gone. He can keep his chin in the air, and if you can land a nice straight shot on him, his chin is in the air. When he tires, or I suppose when he tries to box, is probably what I should be saying. I don't think that's necessarily his forte, and the head movement in general, like I say, chin in the air, moving straight back, it's not really the best defensive wise. Clarke as a fighter though, of course, he's the much cleaner, more technical boxer, and he could possibly go on and try and outbox Wardley here, and that is probably what you'd argue to be his best game plan and the best choice of action. He has also got good combinations. He's got a nice snap and jab when he uses it, and can hold you at a jab if he's willing to use that nice snap and consistent jab. Well, when it is consistent, he can control the distance. Like I mentioned, shot placement is good. It's accurate. It's nice. It's clean. Good body work. He'll go up to the body. I mean, down to the body, up to the head nicely. Patient. He can also, like I mentioned, frustrate you, and yeah, that could be a big factor in this fight. He is definitely going to be wanting to prove with this one, and I'm sure he possibly could be coming into this with a bit of frustrations, but he's going to be wanting to prove. And yeah, I suppose possibly if you speak about the negatives upon him, he's got the lesser power. He's struggled seemingly a little bit in step-ups so far, so like I mentioned, he probably won't have been up for the fight quite as much, but they're still step-ups, and we haven't seen anything crazy from the step-ups so far. On the back foot, it seems like he struggled a bit at times when fighters are actually wanting to put it on him and willingly up for a fight. He can struggle a bit against pressure, like I mentioned. Head movement ain't amazing either. Trying to up the tempo is something which he doesn't really do too much. He's quite comfortable to box at quite a slower pace and slow the fight down, which isn't bad, but when you're against somebody who's going to be a very high pace, who's going to be the one to be able to, is he going to be able to slow it down? Aggressiveness isn't always the thing, and taking necessary risks isn't always something which is in his forte. Imposing himself physically isn't always as good. He can be physical, but he, in my opinion, could impose himself a little bit better. Tries to, tie up a lot. Like, I suppose maybe that is physical, but it's not physical in a good way. It's just tying up, and it's messy, and it's not really what you want to be seeing. And I suppose giving opponents too much respect, I think, can be something which possibly he might be doing a little bit. Wardley is the favourite for this fight though, and I think that Wardley will win via TKO in round 5. I think it's going to be a relatively comfortable stoppage, in my opinion. I think Wardley is possibly going to come out the gates quite quickly, unlike, he doesn't always do that, but he definitely does grow into fights, and if he comes out into this fight quickly, I think he could definitely catch Clarke with something which catches him off guard and scrambles him a little bit, and yeah, I think he could get him hurt early and then be able to capitalise. Like I mentioned, great finisher of fights in general he is, and yeah, I think that could be, I think it's going to be an early stoppage. It's a bit of a bold statement to say that it's so one-sided, but yeah, I think it will be. Then who he could go on to fight, I mean, then you are wanting realistically him to then go on to progress onto that of fringe world levels, I suppose, or European level type opponents. Like, you don't want him to be boxing at this level anymore after this fight, in my opinion. I think arguably this is a little bit of like progression wise from Adelaide to go to Clarke. It's not a huge jump up in class, really, is it? We'll see how tough of a fight this is, but I don't think it was a huge step up, and so, I'd like to see a bit of a bigger step up afterwards. I mean, this first fight, which I'm going to mention, might not be. I think Chisora could be an option. I mean, he's obviously coming off the Gerald Washington fight, which wasn't a great performance at all from him. But, he has fought at a high level. He's awkward. He offers something very different to a lot of heavyweights, and yeah, I think he's definitely going to be a test, and not too many people have been able to stop Chisora, and I think that could be something there. I don't know entirely. Joyce fight would be a big step up, but that would be one I'd be more than interested in. I think Hughnie fight would be a great fight. I mean, Hughnie's at a similar kind of level in his career, but he's boxing at a higher level, in my opinion, than Wardley right now, and he's coming off the Lorena win, which was a good solid win for him, but he did look hurt at times, and he did get hurt, and you know, I think that Huni fight could be an entertaining one if Wardley versus Huni. If they can make that possibly in Saudi or anything, that would be a great fight. But yeah, that is it for today's video. Hope you did enjoy. Like the video if you did indeed like the video, subscribe if you are new, and thanks for watching.